Hello, BookTube. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book, doing Friday reads. And for the first time in ages, I've not bought any books, so there's no there's no mini book haul at the beginning. I did a separate book haul actually. That's why. Because I had bought quite a few, so I tell a lie. I had bought some books. Also, this is just a few books, so it should be quite a short one. And I didn't hate any of these books, so it won't be quite as ranty as my last Friday reads. First book I want to talk about that I read is sort of a British modern classic sci-fi, and that is Alexander Reynolds, or Alastair, sorry, Reynolds' Revelation Space. It annoys me that this spaceship is on the front, because this is definitely not what the spaceships in the Revelation Space are described like. So that's already annoying. But I do like the cover other than that. Basically, there is two big names in space opera in the last sort of 20 years or so that I know of, and that is Alastair Reynolds and Peter Hamilton. And I've got Peter Hamilton's trilogy, but I've never read it. I've read the first sort of few pages of it, but I'd never read Alastair Reynolds either, and he's still releasing quite a lot of books, and they always sound quite interesting. And Robin from Bookends and Biscuits, I think, is always buying them and reviewing them. And also, I think that group of people who are reading modern sci-fi, that includes like Pat and Sean and Greg. I think I think they're going to read, and Summer, they're going to read Revelation Space at some point, I think. And it's kind of been one that's always been missing from my science fiction knowledge, so I thought I'd give him a go. Space opera traditionally has not been my thing. I prefer kind of more science fiction of ideals rather than drama or big fights and militaristic stuff. But this actually, I almost wouldn't describe this as space opera, because it doesn't have a big cast, and it's relatively straightforward. I would describe this as hard science fiction, and again, hard science fiction is not always my thing. I prefer science fiction generally based on the soft sciences, but I did enjoy this book. It's an interesting take on the found object kind of trope. So we start by following a archaeologist, and he's kind of a space archaeologist, which I already like. That's a cool concept. And they're sort of digging up this monolith on another planet, and they know on this planet that some terrible thing has happened that wiped the entire planet out, and the archaeologist is certain that this monolith has some knowledge of it. We also follow an assassin being hired to kill this archaeologist, which is interesting. And a third point of view is this ship, which is called a light hugger, which is another cool concept. I like that this has no faster than light travel, so they hug as close to the speed of light as possible, and they live in suspended animation whilst they travel. And on that ship, there is this crew is crewed by a bunch of people that they would call ultras, and these are basically highly modified human beings. So they've got lots of implants, and this book in general has a lot of biological science fiction, like having computers and chips and things put inside you. there's even a wedding at one point, and as part of the wedding ceremony, they inject parts of each other's brains into each other, which is an interesting new form of consummation. And there's lots of kind of anti-aging stuff. Lots of these people in this are hundreds of years old, and because the Ultras don't live in a linear sort of time, because they spend all this time in fast and light travel, they're described as basically having abstract priorities because they don't live by the same rules as other human beings. They think in thousands of years, and that was a really interesting concept actually. I always like it when this suspended animation comes into books, because you do get this different type of life. It's also got an element of H.G. Wells's Dr. Moreau, I think, in this, where they are one of the characters who is a AI version of the archaeologist's father. He's like Dr. Moreau. He tried to create this super long living race of 80 people, and also a bit like Khan, isn't it, from Star Trek, and where he's trying to create superhumans, and it basically went badly wrong, and they get this disease that's trying to turn their implants or their biology and their implants into each other. It's kind of like melding of machine and human. So it has that H.G. Wells thing where he's questioned, should we play with the human biology? Those were all the things I liked about this book, but I think, as with much hard science fiction, I didn't enjoy the characters that much, and I think it's partially because they are basically sociopaths, a lot of them. Like the crew of this ship are because they live in this abstract time, they sort of don't care about humans and the consequences of things. So there's a lot of mad characters in this, and you didn't really delve too deeply into them. Also goes overly top on technical jargon, and there's obviously a lot of biology in it, but later on there's a lot of physics as well. And Alastair Reynolds was a rocket scientist before he became an author, so that probably explains it. He shows his working perhaps a bit too much. But I did enjoy the book overall, and I've heard that the second book, the characters are a bit more explored, or better. So I haven't given up on Alastair Reynolds. I did enjoy this, but I gave it 3 stars overall, because I thought it was a bit tedious at times with the technical language. But the whole found object thing in this is really well done, and the objects that they're investigating are just very spooky. It's got a bit of Rendezvous with Rama kind of aspect to it as well, where the actual thing is more fascinating than the characters. But yeah, it was nice to get Alastair Reynolds ticked off, and I might explore some of his later works where there's some standalone ones that sound good, but I don't think I'll continue with that series. The other thing I finished this week was my audiobook, which was Raising Hare, a memoir by Chloe Dalton, and this was a little book, and it's one of the classic raising a wild animal books, and I liked this. I found it very calm and relaxing, and I found she treated the hare as a wild animal more than you normally get in these books. For example, she doesn't name it. It's just the hare, or the leveret at first, and yeah, it was narrated by Louise Brealey as well, who I know as sort of, I think, Molly from Sherlock, and she has a very nice kind of posh English relaxing accent, and it's just really about her dealing with the Hare and not knowing what to do, and it eventually has babies as well, and you learn a lot of interesting facts about hares and leverets. For example, they can be pregnant with more than one litter at the same time, so they can give birth and then give birth again really quickly after. But she lives in this weird house where there's like a garden in the middle of it, and you can walk in between it. And the hare kind of lives in the garden and in the house at the same time, and they always come back, and they can jump over the wall and go out into nature if they want. So it's kind of a half wild, half living in her house sort of thing, and it was really interesting and nice. Definitely one of the better living with nature, wild animal books that I've read. The next audiobook that I've just started is I Love You by Rambles on DIY TV, Rockstars, Kids and Mums by Adam Buxton. I think this is a very UK centric book. Adam Buxton is a kind of comedian. He's a comedian who I first knew from a show called The Adam and Joe Show in the 90s and early noughties, maybe. I think it was probably 90s. And they would make silly things. Their set was like his bedroom, and Adam and Joe would make like alternative movie endings but with teddies, and they used to use Star Wars toys and stuff to make little skits and things. And this book is kind of charting that part of his career. Later on, Joe became a director, and Adam does lots of different things now, but he's sort of most popular now for his podcast, which is really good. But yeah, I've always loved Adam Buxton. I read his first book and really enjoyed it, and this one so far is good. And he does loads of little songs, and so the audiobook is really good because he does the songs in the audiobook. And I think he must be one of the only people where almost everyone will listen to this on audiobook rather than read the book. And Adam and Joe also had a radio show on XFM, the London radio station, after their TV show, and he was quite instrumental in my music taste in a way, because he introduced me to lots of bands like Gorky's Zygotic Monkey, who are one of my favourite bands, a Welsh band, and he directed one of their videos and stuff, which is called, I think it was Poodle Walking he directed. I'll leave a link to it below. It's a very crazy, weird song about poodles. If that's the right one, I'll put the one that he directed, but they were not a very well-known band, so it was fun that he got to direct their video. But yeah, enjoying that so far. On the actual book front, I've just started my Jane Austen July read, which is Mansfield Park. As you can see, these sort of Penguin hardcover classics, the covers rub off very easily, so I wouldn't recommend them as reading copies. I'm reading this on my Kindle. But yeah, first time I read all of Jane Austen's novels 5 years ago, this was my second favourite, and I know a lot of people aren't huge fans of Mansfield Park because the main character, Fanny Price, is kind of shy. She's not a Lizzie Bennet type, but I loved it, so I will be interesting to see if it still remains my second favourite as I'm working my way back through them all. I think I've only got Northanger Abbey left now, and then I've done all of them twice. But yeah, looking forward to Mansfield Park. I am very close to finishing Amanda Scott's Boudica series now. We're on you can't see my bookmark, we're on the last 50 or so pages of this big 4-book series, and it's going to be sad to finish because we've been reading this for 1 year and 1 month, so it will be sad to end it. Obviously, I've been I kind of know what's going to happen, but I also have been trying not to remind myself of the actual history, so I have some surprises left. But yeah, a lot of the characters in this obviously aren't real, so I still don't know what happens to them. But I couldn't recommend the series highly enough. I would actually recommend it more for fantasy fans than fans of historical fiction. Although it suits both, it does have kind of gods and magic and things in it. Not real magic, but ghosts and things and dreaming, sort of magic, I guess. Anyway, that means that I am about to start a new buddy read, which will be starting this week. Coming will be The Light Years by Elizabeth Jane Howard, which was my book of the year the year before I started BookTube, I think, or maybe it was the year I started BookTube, I can't remember, but it's one of my favourite books ever, and I'm buddy reading this with Sarah and Joe, so I'm very much looking forward to this, and I hope we do the whole 5-book series. If Boudica took a year and a day or a month, I wonder how long this will take, because these are quite chunky as well. But yeah, that's everything I've been reading. I'm interested to see if anyone else has read Revelation Space and what they thought of it, or if you know any of Alexander Reynolds' books that you recommend. And I've still got a bunch of naturey memoir type books on audiobook, because I just think they're good. They just make for good audio. So, but if you've got any recommendations of other naturey books for audio, I would be very interested. I know a lot of you have read Raising Hare as well, because I think there was a group read of it recently, so let me know what you thought of it as well. But yeah, that's everything I've been up to. Have a good one, BookTube. Bye.